Most cold outbound fails because people are spraying and praying. Today, Nafal is going to show his Clay workflow that scrapes job postings, analyzes company data, and writes personalized emails to hiring managers only for a few pennies per lead. This is how the top 1% of cold emailers are doing outbound right now. So let's get into it.
All right, man. So I'm interested to learn more about this outbound workflow you have. So over to you. It'd be good if you could just share your screen and walk us through it. I'm interested to hear all the nitty gritty details about it.
Sure, no worries. Well, just get my screen share up. So, um, so yeah, I'll just kind of show like the end of in mind. So just a high level, what this flow is. It's basically helping recruitment agencies target and find more hiring managers to become customers, right? Recruitment is generally typically like a very hard niche to do cold email in. So anywhere you can get an edge, be different, is going to help. Plus the volume, right? So we're we're using kind of a few variables here, which you'll see actually in Bison it's just one variable, but within Clay we're able to use multiple variables in one. So for example, like here, this is one variable, which is the vacancy itself. This is a part of the JD, right, which we analyze to see what's the most important kind of criteria. And then we've made it a bit more relevant just to essentially kind of call out what niche or kind of company or industry they're in, right? And then finally, we have like a rotating subject line, sorry, a PS line that would customize depending on the job and the kind of the company itself. So yeah, that's that. Um, so yeah, I'll first of all just show. I'll start from the beginning, and then you can kind of see where it ends up. So you go start with LinkedIn, right? So this is where you'll just pull out any kind of job search, right? And then from here, you just take the link, right? And then what we're using for this is Apify. So Apify, for those that don't know, it's a marketplace for scrapers, and it allows you to scrape LinkedIn jobs essentially. And then when you deploy the task, and essentially what that would allow you to do is push all of that data into Clay. Now you can see here that there's all these records here, right, which is basically the job search. And then from LinkedIn, we get all of this information, such as your company employee size, job description, company name, all this kind of stuff, right? The basic info. Um, you also get the JD in here as well, right? So if I just open up one of the JSONs, so you get the job description text here, right? So that's where we're going to use as context for one of the variables. Now,
Just a
essentially,
question, Nafar,
yeah,
if
go on.
it's all right.
Yeah,
I
sure.
see this ICP checkbox. This to me looks manual. What's the logic behind that? It seems like a check and balance, but just interested to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a basic one, but essentially this client here, they only want to target companies that are below, let's say, 2,500 employee size, right? So if it if based on the employee size, right, they're below that, then it would get a check. You can see here
Okay.
that this is above that, so it wouldn't get a check. That's the only thing. Um, another thing that we are checking as well, this is a bit more sophisticated, is actually checking if the company that posted the job is an actual like end customer, potential end customer, or is it another recruitment firm, right?
Mm.
Because obviously we don't want to be contacting other recruitment agencies, and that's just going to be a waste of time, right? So yeah, we have those checks in place, and then at one point we was using Apollo, right, to find the contacts. Obviously, with Apollo's recent challenges, right, scrapers and that type of thing, we're using now just the Clay function, people search function in Clay. So essentially, you would do a people search, right, against these domains. and then from there you'll get the context, right? So this is where you'll get, and just to show for people that um, aren't familiar with Clay's people search, you just kind of like Apollo, you would put in the company, yeah, kind of the job titles. So this is the job titles of the hiring managers, right? Into Clay, and then you'd reference the domains from the previous table, and that's basically it, right? And obviously your location. Now, this is where it gets a bit more interesting. So you're first of all, what the first step is to just actually get valid emails, right? Because obviously we don't want to be enriching contacts that don't have valid emails. It's just going to be a waste of API credits. So we're just using a simple waterfall of ICPs, Prospero, and better contact. And then here we're looking up the previous table, right? So then essentially, yeah, you know, you're able to actually let me go to this SDR one because that was the one previously.
It's,
Um,
you've got so many tables in here. It seems very overwhelming.
yeah, because obviously every table is a different. It's a
Yeah.
good question actually. Every table is a different hiring manager and department because you're scraping you're finding context based on the. Well, first of all, you're finding jobs within a specific department, right? Like sales, right? SDRs. But then you want to find people who could be the bosses of those SDRs, which is
Yeah.
obviously the CROs, the VPs of sales. So you want to make sure that when you're finding people, they're aligned. So then it's not you're not contacting different department.
Mm.
Um, so that's why we have multiple tables. Um, One other thing is yeah. So like as I was saying, the lookup the lookup jobs. That's where we're pulling in all the job descriptions. You can see here that some companies have multiple vacancies, right? Which is really cool because then you can use in the step two, you can use like reference that like another job, right? In their company. So yeah, we have all that as context. And then here, this is where we start doing the enrichment. So um, this is one of the variables, right? So this is looking at, what type of company that they are. This is actually normalizing the job title because sometimes, you get like SDR1, UK, Europe,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not, doesn't sound normalized, right? Natural. So we're naturalizing that. Normalizing company name, we don't actually use that to be honest, but yeah, we just do it anyway. And then this is when we're taking so that this one V1 job this requirement is actually looking at the first vacancy that we see and then pulling out one requirement that we can reference, right? So here, deep expertise in Salesforce and CRM reporting, right? Two
Got
plus
it.
years in outbound SDR, right? They're doing just pulling out something from the JD that we think is going to be important. Same
Just
again with go on.
sorry to keep interrupting you. Could you show us the prompt that you're using for
Yeah,
this
sure.
this one here?
Yeah, sure.
And
Yeah, so
are these custom prompts you build internally, or do you have like a prompt generator that creates these? Like, what do you have any sort of method to the madness?
yeah, so I basically had a conversation with Claude, which is a back and forth conversation, and um, essentially I yeah I started with one prompt, right, that I wanted to do, and then I would share the output that I got from from Clay, put it back into Claude and say, look, this is what I got. I want it more like this. Can you edit the prompts that way? Um, so you can see here that we're just looking at we're just sharing the context, right, of what we want them to do. And the key thing is, right, you can see here that we're not generating the whole email in one prompt. I'm just trying to get the best variable for the email, right? So that's the key thing with like prompting and using Clay. Like, just do give them one job at a time, and then you'll get the best output and the cheapest as well.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting. There's quite a big
because
prompt. You can tell that there's been a few iterations of like mistakes, and then you go back and say, no, don't do this, do that. I think that this is really the key because most people don't go to this length and they're unhappy with the output, but it's because they haven't their prompts aren't good, basically aren't descriptive enough.
yeah, exactly, and it's all about examples as well, right? If you're giving them like enough examples, right, then they get the idea, right? So yeah, you can see here there's a lot of examples of inputs, outputs. And you can see here, like literally, like the cost is
Mm.
it's like zero, three zeros and five and a five and a two, right?
Do, do,
So
do you have any opinions on what models are good for what use cases? So for context, we're not running any cold outbound at the moment, so you start to get rusty after a while. But I do remember when being in Clay, you could use 4.0, for example, and then you could use Anthropic, and there would be variance in the output. Do you have any like opinions on what models are good for certain use cases, or is it just use the cheapest model for everything?
yeah, um I would say if you're looking to do like what I'm doing here, which is because there's two options, right? You can have like web searching availability, right, which is where you actually need to, let's say, if I'm trying to analyze a company just to see if they're within ICP, then I would also use web search, and at that point, I would probably use like a 4.1 mini, right? Um, in the past 4.0 and to be honest, the 4.0 mini can work as well, but I find just the results of 4.1 mini just to be a bit better. And also it's like, yeah, it's cheaper as well. It can be cheaper in some sense. Um, but yeah, so for like like for company research, ICP research, I would definitely, yeah, use like a 4.1 mini with like what I'm doing here, which is obviously I'm using text or data that I already have in the clay table and obviously manipulating that to get an output. You can use the cheapest model for that. So like 4.0 mini, I'm using 4.0 mini here, 4.1 mini. Yeah, rarely I would go to like 4.0 unless I have like, I don't know, like 100 rows and I'm trying to like get the best output for these 100 companies, right?
Mm.
Um, for research, right? And that's using like web scraping abilities as well. So yeah, if you're doing cold outbound at scale, you don't really want to venture above 4.1 mini to be honest, because then it doesn't make sense. You just make a really expensive table.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, that's basically one of the variables. Step two, where like I said, if they do have another vacancy, we are actually writing the whole step two, in one prompt actually. So actually, let me see what we're still using for a mini here because again, we're just manipulating the data that we have, so there's no research needed or web scraping needed. Um, but yeah, so we're referencing like the vacancy number one, and then yeah, and then obviously they have a vacancy, they have another job, so we're referencing that as well, right? Um, but then if let's say they don't have a job, right, then I'm just using a formula and just doing like a really basic follow up. Just it's basically just a nudge, and then I'm aggregating that into one column. So then again, in email Python, it's really it's clear. Uh, and then from here we're just generating a PS line, right? And this is from a just like a blurb of text that I've just inputted in here of like different case studies that this company has generated over time, and yeah, and it basically would choose the best one depending on what company we're speaking to. Then we're generating a three-word subject line, or you know, all small caps. And then this one is an interesting one. So sometimes we would like in the past we've contacted someone who let's say is hiring for a sales director, and then we would contact the sales director, right? So it looks like, oh,
Mm.
you're getting replaced type of thing. So this is just a check, just double check that the person that we're hiring is a level above the vacancy type of thing, right?
Okay, yeah.
So just to avoid any awkwardness. And then yeah, and then you get kind of like the full using Clay to like actually just create the custom variable as well. So yeah, so you can just use this as the custom variable as you saw earlier. So that we just so it has like yeah, so it's really good for deliverability because every email is different. And then um this one here, last bit, is just basically just to refine the grammar actually, because sometimes when you're doing like this Frankenstein kind of way of like mixing up variables and all that kind of stuff right into like one email, grammar can be a bit off. So it's
Yeah.
just doing a grammar check at the end and just naturalizing some of the copy as well.
Nice, nice. There's a lot that goes into it. It's like almost like a Lego set.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions, because I can imagine these tend to be the questions that are on people's minds. So going back to the lead enrichment, how come you've selected those vendors in the waterfall enrichment? Because there's no shortage, right, of data providers. Have they just you found them to have the highest success rate, or
Um, yes, it's a good question. So, it's whatever. Uh, there's part of it is whatever APIs the client has. So, we just try to be as efficient as possible. So if they have a subscription with
mm,
a specific tool like ICPs, then yeah, we would then would you would just use that, right? If they're paying for it already. They're better context, an interesting one because they are a waterfall enrichment. So they would use multiple providers to get you the result, right? So
okay,
essentially, that's an interesting one. So you're kind of like having, yeah, like maybe 10 providers in one kind of API call type of thing. But I mean, me generally like the bigger hit, the daily drivers that we use a lot, Lead Magic
mm,
is one. We use Find Email. I always think Find Email is a solid like number two as well. And yeah, and I think there's some up and coming ones as well, like that are similar to Better Contact, which is Better and Rich, which again they have
mm,
partnerships with like multiple data providers, and they can provide you like a very cheap a very cheap credit system, right? Where yeah, it's probably one of the cheapest on the market, to be honest. Um,
got it. And
so
then,
yeah.
so you mentioned you're using Email Bison. I've never used the product. Obviously, generally, I know this is a generalization, but generally, people that are doing these sort of workflows, it's like Smart Lead or Instantly. If you're more enterprise, then you're going to use some of the bigger tools that have emerged over the last couple of years. What's the justification for using Email Bison over those Smart Lead and Instantly?
Yeah, so yeah, I still, personally also use like out on the story, we still use Instantly. I will predominantly use Instantly, actually. And then Smartly we have for like a couple clients. Email Bison, yeah, essentially this client, well, this client's actually my friend, right? So kind of helping him out at the same time. But yeah, I recommended him Email Bison because the amount of volume that he's going to be doing for his campaigns is quite large. So if let's say you're sending over 100,000 emails a month, but then you're doing it across like multiple clients, for example, you're just paying one fee that's yeah, that's just it's like $500 a month or whatever it is, right? But that's just one fee, but you don't get charged per lead, right? Whereas instantly or smartly, you get charged by how many leads you have stored in your workspace, right? So there's
Okay.
that like benefit where it's yeah, scalable. It's cheaper as you scale. But also like they have a kind of a private server. So you have a dedicated server and IP for your sequencer, right? So you're not sharing an IP with like others, like, which kind of smartly and instantly do. And yeah, and so it's yeah, deliverability I found has been better on email Bison as well.
Yeah, which if you're sending tens, hundreds of thousands of emails, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And a campaign like this, would you view this as like an evergreen campaign? You just let this run because there's, job adverts aren't ever going to stop, right? So do you just leave this running in the background, or is it a campaign that you'd have to supplement with other campaigns to ensure that you're contacting enough leads per month for this client?
Yes, it's a good question. So I would say it can be evergreen. The way we've set it up, there's yeah, it can be, oh sorry, it's not evergreen at the minute. You just have to have like an API called Interbison to have the leads uploading evergreen. I would say you could, if you were to have like NAN or make a flow into this, then you can make it evergreen. So yeah, but the only caveat with this setup right now, I would say, is Clay's people search functionality isn't as superior as like an Apollo or Sales Now obviously is where a lot of the data is. So um because of that, you're if you're going to get more, if you want to get like better contact data, then part of the step when you're finding contacts has to be manual. So that's why it can be a bit convoluted, unless there's an API for a scraper, which I haven't found. I haven't found yet, but yeah,
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so separate to this workflow, let's say I'm somebody who is like, if we had a scale of like go to market engineering, let's say, right? You're going to be over here on the extreme of, probably spending hours building these workflows, creating like a real outbound engine. Whereas there might be people at the other side of the scale where they're using tools like Smart Lead instantly, but they're not maybe building advanced things like this. Maybe it's just, scraping leads from Sales Nav and just uploading them to the sequencer and minimal relevancy or personalization. Are there any for that group of people? Are there any workflows that you think they should tackle first? Like any workflows that you've just seen be absolute bangers that have worked consistently across like varying clients?
yeah, um, yeah. I would say right one flow that I can share right now is a really well, I would say it's simple enough where you if you're able to pull a list, let's say from an account list, so you just need a list of accounts from, let's say, store leads or even Google Maps or whatever. You could create a campaign using just Clay, right? Finding the contact. So do you want me to share that one as well, like
Yeah,
whilst
yeah,
here?
go for it. Yeah, if you think, yeah, for sure.
So for example, this is using this is using store leads, right, as a um as that, as that source of truth of accounts, right? So yeah, whatever source that you have, you could use that. Now, you could probably skip this part because this is very specific to what my client is requesting. But yeah, like I said, they want to only target customers that are within like a 20-mile radius of their location, right?
Mm.
So, yeah, we're doing that kind of, we're finding the actual company address. We're actually seeing, is it within 20 miles? If yes, then cool. Then we'll push to this next table here. Um, Now, but yeah, if you didn't need that, then I would just skip to this stage where, first of all, I would always validate, right? Is this company that I'm targeting, is it my ICP? And in this case, right, it's e-commerce. So what we're first of all doing was we're checking, is this company within e-commerce, right? It's a Clayagent prompt. It's quite a simple one to be honest. Um, but yeah, it's just checking if they have things such as like cart, buy now, right? That type of thing. So just keeping it very simple. And then from there, this is probably
Are,
the
are you are you your screen isn't shared, by the way. It sounds like you're talking through something.
okay, so maybe let me share my screen
But
again.
yeah, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like basically, lead qualification is like, because I think that that's the mistake a lot of people make, is they're just reaching out to spray and pray, right? They're just reaching out to a bunch of people,
Yeah,
um, and that's why they see low response rates and they think cold outbound doesn't work. But if you can reduce the size of that pool but reach out to relevant people, then well, you're going to get higher response rates, but also your deliverability isn't going to get killed because more people are replying, which is a positive feedback loop. So yeah, I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and that's yeah, just going to your point, like if I was someone who I just like I had some some ability in Clay or whatever, and I just had like a account list, this could be a flow for them. So yeah, like I said, you just put an account list into Clay,
Mm.
and then you just check, yeah, do that account qualification, are they e-commerce or not, or just edit it to wherever ICP is. Now, even this, I would even skip this. This is very specific to like e-commerce. But what I'm doing is I'm actually um, pulling out one of their products on their website just to call out, right? So yeah, that's that. But I would say like yeah, you could skip that. If you're not doing that, you just skip that step, and then here, this is where you just find the context, right? So I'm pushing all the qualified accounts into another table here, and then what I would say is this is where you're finding this is like the key prompt here. So in this case, what we're doing was we're trying to find using the internet to find these personas, right? So you would put in whatever personas that you want, and the key thing is output it results in JSON. So then if so then let's say where's one of the results here? Oh, I have three general managers, right? Confidence is very high. So then I can push these into another table, into the next table. So then I have essentially a table with all contacts, right, that I need within these companies. And then at this stage, you're just essentially, yeah, kind of, as you can see, these are all the comp people. And then you're just doing, again, the simple waterfall to find those work emails, validating it, and then you're just pushing it to your sequencer. So like, I know it's complicated, but it's probably just like two steps really.
Interesting. Are you seeing any patterns with regards to calls to action or offers? Ones that tend to have. I know it's the offer is going to vary across company and industry, right? But are there any patterns you're seeing?
Yeah, I would like when we're onboarding a new customer, like I would, you can always tell if like this campaign is gonna rip, like we're gonna get positive replies. Like the clay table that I showed you just now, like we knew like it was just gonna fly. Like we just knew because they were offering like free 3 months up front type of thing, for like for their services or their products. So and the value of that is a minimum of like 3K, right? So it's like that's like if you have an offer where yeah, if you have an offer that people would pay for, and that's Alex from Hormozy, like people will pay for, that's always gonna do well in cold market. Now, of course, not every client has that, not every company has that. So if you don't have that, then I'd say the next best thing is providing like insights. So because a lot of the time people aren't in buying mode right now, right? They're in information gathering. So if you want to increase your positive reply rates, how can I provide information that's really valuable that people might pay for, right? So that could be like, okay, can I share you a 2-minute video on how we've helped CMOs, reduce churn rate by 50%, right, in the healthcare space, right? So it's like a very specific CTA for that particular person, and it's pure insights, right? And so yeah, that's what I would say is like the second best.
Makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And would you guys normally construct an offer? So, like, say you onboard a client, would you usually help them construct an offer for these outbound campaigns, or is it common for them to come to you already having an attractive offer?
Yeah, well, it it's a mix, right? Some clients, like I said, will have like a great offer already, and we just add our cold email finesse and expertise, and then we'll kind of put that on steroids. In some cases, they're earlier stage, right?
Mm.
They don't have that product market fit. So yeah, they come to us for testing, right? And that's what Cody was really good for, is being able to test like at scale what is landing for various industries, and testing different offers around that. And yeah, and I think at the very least, you should be doing that to just give your client as much insights as possible.
Nice, nice. Yeah, yeah. No, um, that's why I always like cold outbound is you can, especially with the tools available today. I've done it for like a couple of businesses where literally within 1 day, 2 days, you can know if you have something that's attractive or not. And if not,
Yeah,
then you can, make changes and then know within another day. There aren't many. I mean, you can
100%.
do that with paid ads, but how much are you going to pay to
Mm,
get the same level of insights?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just gonna be too expensive. So yeah, cold email is definitely the most efficient way to do that.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you running through these workflows. Anything else you want to share, or we can finish it there?
No, no, all good. Yeah, appreciate you having me on, and yeah, we'll look forward to speaking to you again.